what most people want is freedom, whether they know it or not. It's like one of the greatest things in life to have. Like poor health, one of the scary parts about it is it removes freedom from your life. Being poor, one of the things it removes is freedom. So like the real thing a lot of people are searching for is a way to have a free life. And there's some things you can do to increase the likelihood that you'll have freedom in your life. One of them is steer clear of bad debt. What I mean by bad debt, like if you listen to like Dave Ramsey and some financial people, they'll tell you that all debt is bad. And to an extent, they're right. There's a lot of people that can't handle any type of debt, even like asset secured leverage debt. And what I would mean by that is like owning an investment property. That's an asset. That debt is secured by that asset, and you're using the leverage of the bank, the loan, to get this asset that you wouldn't have enough cash to buy. The tenants are helping, or you're renting it out, and that income is helping pay for it. To me, that's good debt. Not everyone agrees, and some people it doesn't work well for, but for people who are on the path of personal development, have somewhat good business sense, it's good debt to have. But bad debt is consumer debt, like buying too many Christmas presents and going on too many trips and going out too often and Ubers and alcohol, all this shit on your credit card, building up at 10, 20, some people 30% interest on that money. And a lot of people don't even know what that means. That means that like your minimum payment that is on your credit card is just paying interest. So a lot of people stay in credit card debt forever. They're like prisoners to it, and then they buy cars. Like I think the average car payment in America right now, I think it's like almost $800 a month just on the car payment. And I've never bought a new car. I've never leased a car. I'm 33 and I love cars. Like that was my dream as a kid, was to own an exotic car dealership. There was a point in life where I used to buy cars, fix them, clean them, and sell them. Had like this little mini car dealership going for a few years. I really do enjoy that, and I still wouldn't, because the cars depreciate like crazy. You also need to have full coverage and higher insurance rates while you have this car, this more expensive car. And so much of that money is just going down the drain. And you also lose freedom with that. So if you have credit card debt, all that spending now is you're paying interest on that. And now you have to work, or you have to make a certain amount of money just to pay your monthly bill. And then on the car side of it, you're not building wealth because that asset is depreciating like crazy. It's not really an asset, it's a liability, because it doesn't pay you, you pay for it. Assets pay you or increase in value, and liabilities you pay for or decrease. So every car, almost every car, is a liability, not an asset. So if you bought it new, 5 years, half that value is gone. And the cost of ownership is just so high. But if you buy a car for 10 grand, a good car, it might be worth eight or 9 grand in 4 or 5 years. It's amazing how some cars, even with miles, the value doesn't change much. And your insurance rate will be cheaper, and you won't have a car payment. So now, if you're careful with your credit card, and you don't have consumer debt, and you have a car that you don't lease, you buy a used, cheaper car, one that you save up some money, and you buy cash, whether that's 5 grand, 10 grand, whatever it is. And it might sound crazy, but if you cut down on your spending, it's like, all right, for a year, I'm not going to go out to bars. I'm not going to take Ubers. I'm not going to do all these things. Instead, I'll go to the gym and I'll listen to some podcasts and I'll do other things for entertainment. And now it's, oh, wow, I have 8 grand saved. I'm going to go buy this $8,000 car. Great. Now you have no credit card debt. You own your car. You're not really losing much money on depreciation, and your interest and your insurance is lower. Okay, what else? Housing is the biggest bill for most people. Now this is going to be a little bit more difficult, but there's ways to live cheaper. Like you can have a roommate. You can use something called delayed gratification, which my wife and I used for years. Like we didn't have a dishwasher. That was something like we really wanted. We both hated doing dishes, but we didn't rent a place that had a dishwasher until we were almost 30 years old. So we went through all our 20s without that, and we even moved out of a big city to a smaller town to be able to afford that. So we kept living below our means, essentially, with housing. Housing is such a big one because it's every month, and you could live with family a little longer than maybe society would like you to, but that's just a United States thing for the most part. In so many cultures, historically and around the world, utilize generational living, where you give to generations that, like, my dad was older, hurt his back, couldn't shovel snow. I shovel, I do things, I clean the yard, and now I'm providing value. And he has a house that he's had for a while that he's able to afford. And if I wasn't there, it's not like he was renting out my room. So now there's like a symbiotic relationship. So you can look in your own life and see if there's any opportunities to take advantage of your situation. Not everyone has that situation. Some people's houses are really toxic and they do need to get out. But like, some people leave just because, like, society says you should be out and you shouldn't be mooching off your parents or any of these things. You could even pay some rent while you're home and help your parents and fix things, or do whatever value you can provide. Do the dishes, cook, whatever it is to help them. But it can greatly subsidize your housing costs. And during that time, if you're saving money or taking calculated risks, starting a business, starting a channel, whatever you want to do, these are all ways to increase freedom. So say living home, living below your means. There's also something called house hacking. House hacking is actually something that we're doing right now. I've been wanting to do this for years. You buy a house, usually more than one unit. You could even do it with a single family house. You're a single guy or a girl, you buy a house, you could have roommates, and say it's a 3-bedroom house, and you rent each room, the mortgage is $3,000, you rent each room out for $1,000. So you have 2 roommates paying you $1,000 a month, and now you own a house. But instead of $3,000 a month mortgage, your mortgage is only costing you $1,000. But you're the homeowner. You're starting to build equity, and you're starting to get other benefits of freedom. If you want to get a dog, you don't have to ask anyone. If you want to put new floors in the living room, you don't have to ask anyone. You could just do your own thing. So freedom like that is important to you. House hacking is a cool way. Also, buying houses that aren't buying a house that isn't fixed up. Like the house that we bought wasn't fixed up at all. We had to redo everything. And people get intimidated by that, but it's another way to, instead of looking at like turnkey or really nice things. But I think that the housing thing is more specific to your situation. You might be in a career where you can't buy a house right now. So if you're going to rent, maybe instead of renting the 2-bedroom, you rent the 1-bedroom. You rent the one that doesn't have the balcony. Whatever it is, live below your means until that decision doesn't remove freedom. It's, if I just work another shift, I can get the nicer house, or I can get the nicer apartment. But if that removes freedom, to me, I think that's a bad choice. I think that you should be careful with your car choice, with your house choice, and your consumer spending. And ideally, you wouldn't have student loans, but that's too late for most people. Most student loans were a terrible return on investment. So look through your life, see if you can make a change with your car. If you have a lease, get rid of it. If you own a car, like, either pay it off to avoid the interest or sell it and buy a car that you can own cash. So right there, without credit card bills from going out too much or sloppy spending, or spending to just make yourself feel better with like new shoes and trips and freaking jewelry, as you cut that back and focus on maybe some personal development to feel better, and be careful with your car choice. I watch car choices destroy people for years and years and years. They always make the wrong car choice. I've been guilty of making tons of car mistakes. Even though I haven't bought new or leased, I've still made a lot of mistakes. So be careful with that car choice. Buy something you could buy cash and that isn't going to depreciate too much. So I'd say below 20,000 for most people. Ideally below 15, that's getting tougher to get something good. And then with housing, try to house hack. Try to live with friends and have roommates, or live with family and pay a little bit. Or when you go to rent something that is on the shittier side, on the smaller side, no dishwasher, no view. And with that extra money that you have now, either pay off debt or save money, and now you have some freedom. If you want to make a career change, you can do that. If you want to start a business, you can do that. You can get some more freedom in your life. And if freedom's not important to you, you're in the wrong place, because I value freedom more than anything, and I think that most people deep down really want freedom. I think that's such a innate human desire, and the things that remove freedom, you should be very careful, because that's usually what they're selling you. A new car, the nicer house, all these upsells remove freedom by straining you. And in this economy with inflation and everything, and a generation full of student loans, it's harder than ever to get. So those 3 things: consumer debt, housing, cars, they can remove freedom for life if you don't pay attention to them.